some will say, "Oh, how can you make fun of the concept of dick riding?" And I will say, "We're not.
Yeah.
That they're doing the bad type of dick riding.
And we're doing the good
riding.
one.
They're doing the dick riding Olympics. What we're doing is the dick riding Promethean struggle.
Yep.
we are dick riding the fire from the gods and bringing
Absolutely.
the light of humanity.
And, I'm sorry.
And then a falcon comes down, and we have to dick ride the falcon for eternity, but it's worth it.
Spreading misinformation is basically the funnest thing to do on social media, and I just we need better disinformation out there, because this birds aren't real shit is not cutting it for me.
It sucks.
Those guys were on 60 Minutes last night.
Pathetic.
Who birds aren't real are like jib jab for like the
Yes,
the sort
exactly.
of
That's precisely it.
post-truth era.
Yes.
So, like, the joke with that is, like, it's making fun of conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
But, like, QAnon people believe they, like, astrally project into each other's dreams and kill each other.
Yeah.
You can't really parody the real thing. Like, the real thing's already funny.
They believe, like, a homeless, like, harmonica player, or I don't even know what he does, is the son of the dead president who died.
Yeah, no, Donald Trump is president, and his right-hand man is a guy who lives in his car.
Yeah, you cannot top that. I do think that this, like you said, that this whole thing is about pleasing the constituents, people who care about the Democratic Party and think the only problem we have as a country is people that just have too much darn misinformation. If they had the real information, they'd know everything is fine, and they would support Brandon. But, of course, it won't do anything. At the same time, though, it does. I mean, it really does get everybody. It's a great 4-quadrant program for everybody who still loves the news, because now all of the Republicans get to feel finally like it's 1984 and that they're repressed. And so the branded people will get to fantasize that there's some misinformation bureau out there cleaning up the internet. And those people get to pretend that they're in the fucking White Rose in Germany in 1944. And in reality, yeah, they will just like be posting out fucking infographics. That will be the entirety of it.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious what we're going to talk about for the first part of today's show. The end of Roe v. Wade in America, the draft that was leaked from the Supreme Court, making it clear that they are going to overturn Roe and Casey, and end a constitutional right to abortion in this country. Is one of those occasions where I don't want to spend time talking about dumb people who have bad takes. I don't want to relitigate the 2020 or 2016 elections. I don't need to talk about Ruth Bader Ginsburg. It's just one of those occasions where everything one can say seems insufficient to the moment that we now face. And I think the truly horrible thing is that when I say this is in no way a means to exonerate them from their absolute failure, and really the complete and final failure of the Democratic Party. But if you really look at it right now, even if they wanted to enshrine federal protections for the right to an abortion, there's basically nothing they can do. There's things they can try to do, and then I would hope a reasonable party would at least attempt to do to show something. But they're not going to do that, and it's just right now we're dealing with a situation where anything that the right wing can do in terms of our law, they will do. That's the fact of it, and it's something that it's a reality that despite the fact that we all knew exactly what was coming as soon as Trump secured his Supreme Court nominees, living to see Roe v. Wade overturned in America is something I didn't think would happen. I knew it was going to happen, but that offers little comfort to how nauseating it is to live through it.
Yeah, no, it is. The writing was on the wall, and it was on the wall both in the last 6 years since Trump's victory, and especially in the recent couple years when it's become clear that the Republican game plan on social issues, more or less, is that they're going to keep upping the ante. They're going to keep doing the thing that all good-hearted center-right professional opinion writers said they would never do, because it's a tripwire in American politics. There's really no telling what comes after this. There's no telling what the laws in the states look like. I mean, we have a little bit of an idea if we're going by prosecutions of women having miscarriages, like making contraception outright illegal, a mass violation of women, even greater than what we're already seeing. But this is, it's unspeakably awful, made worse by the fact that the immediate political solution to this is not clear. Obviously, it would be great if there was some type of political goal, some type of immediate action by a national, supposedly left of center party. And that's awful and discouraging. There isn't. But also, just by people, by any of these organizations, by groups like Planned Parenthood, there's nothing besides emails right now. And I'm not saying that I have a plan either, but it seems like everyone is currently still in the fog of this decision.
Well, it's like I said, it's something we all knew was coming, and it's running up into the fucking reality that like of what it really means to live in a country that is making its final transition from sort of a staged, managed ersatz democracy into a purely authoritarian society. We're in a situation now where even if the Democrats wanted to do something, they can't, because look, it would take a filibuster to pass a federal legislation codifying Roe v. Wade through legislation, but then they don't have the votes for that, so they need the filibuster, and they don't have the votes to do away with the filibuster. Look, there are ways. There are things. If they were a political party that functioned in any coherent way, there are measures that they could take to whip votes or extort people, pressure them, whatever. But we know that's not going to happen. And what we're living in now is, as you said, Matt, we're now living in a post-overreach era. Like there's now, like, you cannot take for granted that there's anything that the conservative movement has said openly, more or less, for the last 40 or 50 years about the vision they have for society and the ways in which they're going to use the law to achieve that is now can be considered too extreme for them to consider, because they hold all the cards. Like I said, the Supreme Court, which they have a majority on now, has as lifetime appointments for essentially what is absolute authority over the laws of this country. And if you think that these people are not going to use that absolute authority in the ways they've been training their entire adult life to do, then, like I said, you're either a fucking moron or you're just lying for cynical purposes. Because like there's been a tidal wave of commentary from center right pundits, or even centrist, center-right pundits, to convince you that, hey, look, this doesn't mean the end of abortion. It's just going back to the states. It won't be that bad. And gay marriage, just like gay rights, contraception, those are fine. Those are safe. There's no that would be ridiculous. That'd be too extreme for them to go after. And it's just like, or how about a federal abortion ban? So then that way, like, abortion truly will be illegal everywhere in the United States. Do you honestly think that there's anything stopping these people from doing this? They've said that this is what they want to achieve for decades now. And like I said, a Democratic Party that actually represented the people who vote for them would have done something about this decades ago. But like this is the result of years and years of a coordinated political movement to achieve their goals, and the complete and total willful capitulation of the opposition party to do anything about it. And now millions and millions of Americans, or all Americans, are stuck in this fucking nightmare, fucking barbarous country that we're going to have to continue to live the rest of our lives in. And the thing is about the Roe v. Wade voter backlash. I'm sure there will be backlash against this because, obviously, like, this is a deeply, deeply unpopular thing. Like, the vast, vast majority of this country does not want to see Roe v. Wade overturned. But here's the thing. When almost half the country has already been living for years now in a situation where abortion is functionally illegal, it's kind of hard to say, vote for us because we don't want the bad thing to happen, when half of the country are already living in that reality.
Yeah, also there is the fact that abortion has been, since about 2009, since Obama went back on his promise to enshrine Roe in law legislatively, Roe and abortion itself has been slowly but surely removed a little bit every year from the Democratic National Platform, to the point that it's barely ever talked about. How many people even connect the Democrats to abortion? If they're swing voters, if they're half the time non-voters who could swing Democratic, the
the people that like helped Obama win by the margins he did. How would they even make that association at that point?
I mean, Biden himself has said the word abortion probably twice in his entire presidency, and one of them was last week or yesterday when when this draft document was leaked.
On his way to the Lockheed Martin plant to smooch the Javelin missiles as they were packing them up to send them to Kiev. You can't beat that, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
this is overturning.
People don't want to make movies about the current moment. How do you top Roe vs. Wade gets overturned and the Democratic president goes to a fucking
a missile factory,
rocket factory? Just it's too much.
And the banner behind him said, "We stand with Ukraine," at the exact moment that like the nightmare scenario of which is basically, as you said, Matt, the only thing the Democrats have to offer anyone who votes for them is that you have to vote for us because if you don't, Roe v. Wade will be overturned. Roe v. Wade is now overturned. And the message of the Democratic Party and Joe Biden is we stand with Ukraine.
Yeah. I mean, like, pretty much everyone's responses to this have just made me imagine them starring in an ISIS beheading video. Like, everyone. Like, no one's had a good response. Everyone deserves to, like, become Nick Berg. But, the response among like, do you know that guy Bakari Sellers?
Oh yeah,
yeah. So for people who don't know, because like this guy's not really been in vogue in a few years. Bakari Sellers is like a South Carolina Democrat who also has done years of lobbying for Israel on behalf of AIPAC, but he's sort of like, one of those tweeted Democrats that rose up during 2016. He would be like on a list of Follow Friday with like Sarah Kenzor and people like that. But anyway, he made probably like an hour after the leak, he made a post that was like, well, congratulations to Democrats. Republicans have lost the suburbs forever. And it's like, how many fucking times have I heard that in my life? Like,
remember when they wanted Trump to be the nominee?
Yeah. No, Jesus Christ. I mean, it really cemented how little anyone gives a shit, like in the professional institutional side. And I know that it's like what I'm asking for is for them to at least like just to pretend to lie that they give a shit. But like just for an hour, could you just pretend that you find this horrifying? But then you have a lot of legitimate celebrities who presumably do not need to scam people. Like you have Reese Witherspoon, like Future posts about NFTs, Jimmy Fallon. Do you like for someone like Reese Witherspoon, do you think they're like in on the scam, or do you think this is just a case of like celebrities just repeating things that were told to them?
Well, I would never say celebrities would do any of that, any of the latter. No, I mean, my guess is, and I would like to, I will stay generic here so as not to talk smack about any specific celebrity, God forbid. But, your agent comes to you and they're like, hey, you can make X dollars by doing almost nothing. And they go, tell me more. Because it's not, the big ad campaigns, right? The Matt Damon ad or the Larry David ad or whatever, those are LeBron ad. Those are all pretty straightforward, right? Like they get paid a lot of money in dollars to convince you to take your dollars and turn them into something else. Right? It's pretty straightforward. Now you have to, I don't know. I guess the truth is you don't have to do any deep thinking, and that's probably what happened. The NFTs are a little bit more interesting only in that the rumor with some fact backed up in certain cases is that the celebrities are basically being given an NFT. They're not paying for the NFT themselves. I mean, maybe some of them are. But a lot of them, probably not. And someone is purchasing this NFT for them to, free publicity, right? Not free publicity, but publicity. And everybody makes out, right? A celebrity gets their NFT that they have spent $0 on and hopefully sells it or whatever. And it certainly didn't cost them anything. And then, the person who hired them to do that, running whatever NFT thing they're doing, they also get paid. The only downside, of course, is that the other person on the other side who's bought them has totally gotten housed, right? Totally got screwed.
Well, it certainly makes sense that like if you're gifted an NFT, like on
both the people who are minting it and the celebrities. That certainly makes sense. Like, yeah, if you're gifted an asset, you'd want to be like, oh, everyone should buy this. Oh, women need to buy apes. If women don't have the cool hedgehog collection, they're gonna die.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, it just seems like varying levels of participation. I'm inclined to believe that someone like Reese Witherspoon, who, like, I didn't hear from her for like 10 years, and then this is all she talks about now. I'm sort of inclined to think that she really believes it.
Totally possible. I'm sure that's true of a number of folks. I mean, what's interesting about this particular, thing that bears striking resemblance to other Ponzi's and multi-level marketing schemes of the past is that it did start out in a more, it was more of your tech forward people initially. Initially it was used to buy drugs, but like after that point, you had a lot of like, kind of people in Silicon Valley, people who were sort of interested in technology. And I use technology somewhat in quotes, because the technology here is not new, right? So cryptocurrency is, the Bitcoin white paper combined. I'm sure you guys know this, but just for the general audience, combined blockchain, this 30-year-old technology from 1991, Stuart Haber and Scott W. Sternett at Bell Labs, with public key encryption, which is even older, which is 50 years old. So, older technologies, it's a distributed ledger, you're encrypting stuff, you're putting it on there. It's cool, it's interesting. It doesn't really work as a currency, which they found out pretty quick, because it's the proof of work like stuff doesn't translate into it's so energy intensive that it doesn't really scale. So, along the way, it's gained so much steam, and one has to assume that it obviously has utility for things that are illegal because it's operating outside the regular system. And it has utility as a speculative vehicle, and people who got in early in this speculation have made a bunch of money if they've cashed out. So I think that Hollywood's not immune from that. I'm sure there's a lot of people who, not a lot, but a number of people who have gotten in and made a bunch of money. And once you've made a bunch of money, you tend to believe in something a lot. So for them, I'm sure it's cool. It'll be interesting to see how long that lasts, right? Today, the market just like tanked, and crypto tanked even harder. And my whole theory as a guy who, has this undergraduate degree in economics, 20 years old, so I'm not exactly an expert, but is that this is all an easy money thing, right? The Fed has zero interest rate. There's all this money floating around, obviously during the pandemic. Extraordinary measures need to be taken. I would disagree a lot with how they were taken, but they were there. And there was a lot of money to people to gamble with. And there's a lot of like overlap between crypto and gambling. So, people are speculating when the Fed raises rates as doing now, that should, sort of collapse the system.
I don't know. It's just like the hope of using this finding like a security to like liberate humanity. I think we're seeing the results of that right now.
Yeah. I mean, it is. I think like Schadenfreude it's always going to be funny, right? Like I will never moralize anyone doing it, and it's especially going to be funny when some of the people involved, I guess, really did believe, like in their heart of hearts, they were going to live in Elysium, and the rest of us were just going to be we were going to be wearing barrels and suspenders. We were going to be fighting over like rat meat on Earth. they were going to live in satellites. But as it happens, and this is another thing we talked about with Ben, I think it really seems like a lot of the people that got fucked the most were just they were people who were like trapped in shitty jobs who wanted out of them, or they were middle class people who felt like they fell behind in just the grand march of life, that they weren't where their parents were at a similar age. It's just, in America, there are just so many people who everything appears fine, but they're 2 left turns or 1 left turn away from fucking complete catastrophe. And this was that catastrophe for a lot of people.
Actually, who's suffering because of crypto right now? Our swagged out mayor, Eric Adams.
He got owned there.
Because he said he would take his paycheck in Bitcoin. And I think
Bitcoin was like 40% higher.
Adjusted for like the taxes he's paying on his paycheck, I think Eric Adams is now making negative $600 to be mayor of New York.
Yeah, okay. Bitcoin was at like 40,000 when he said he was doing it, and it closed at what, like, or it didn't close, but it was like 25,000 yesterday.
It's going to close at zero. That's what we're gonna we're headed towards. I mean, we don't know how many more cycles are left in this thing, but it has one story, because once it hits zero, unlike something that's backed by like a real like fundamental business, there's no pump to get the money back in once it hits zero, because there's no asset.
I have an idea. I'm going to invent a stable coin that's going to, it's not going to fix all this, but it will be like the most stable coin in history. And it'll be kind of like the backbone of the market. And, my thinking here is that, what do we know about Bitcoin, right? Everyone knows how it works. The blockchain. What's the blockchain? The blockchain is all the math equations that have more than 2 letters in them. It's all of those. But what if we had a coin that was backed up by good old-fashioned math that we all understand? I'm inventing the Felix coin that's backed up by, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. And everyone can figure it out. It's like, look, it's right in the name. It's right in the name.
To mint a new Felix coin, you need to solve the following equation. 13 minus 7 equals.
Yeah. It's like those are the only math problems in there. It does not get more complicated than that. That is the only value link to our coin. And that's the genius of it. Everyone can do the math. And when BlackRock buys $1 trillion of, whatever they do, however they're going to try to break the Felix coin, we're just going to get together and do, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally problems. And they'll be like, damn, this coin's too strong. This science is too tight.
Absolutely gone off that coin.
Yeah.
Apparently we've run out of infant baby formula for infants. Like there's no more.
Oops.
Yeah.
So there's no more formula.
Oh,
Weird how that happened. And once again, we can only have Brandon to blame for this. He went to the factory. He thought he was in the men's room. He pissed in the vats. It contaminated it. Once again, let's go, Brandon.
Yeah. Man, you got formula that comes right out of you know what? Put your mouth on the thing.
You wouldn't believe how it happened either. How this occurred.
Oh yeah.
Totally unpredictable.
Yeah.
Apparently the company that's manufacturing this stuff in huge amounts neglected for years to pay to repair any of the machinery that was just collecting colonies of bacteria to turn into superbugs, because they had to do stock buybacks.
Okay, so as a result of that, babies don't have food anymore in America. Like infants, unless you're capable of being breastfed,
which is good.
You're out of luck.
But some
you're
are
out of luck. You're out of luck. You're gonna have to feed your kid Gatorade or something.
Yeah, it's got electrolytes.
It's good stuff. Yeah.
Well, yeah, everyone yelled at me for giving my kid Sprite. Who's the asshole now? He's used to it. Is your kid used to it now?
Yeah, he's like those Kenyan runners who train at high altitudes.
Yeah,
he's gonna rinse everybody because he's the only one whose body has evolved to take nutrients out of corn slurry and yellow dye number 5.
Yeah, David was drinking Sprite from the day he was born. And, okay, who's the worst parent in Upper Manhattan now? Not me, because I moved. I'm no longer Town and Country's worst father in the Upper West Side. The production of the Avatar movies is hopefully a staging ground for him running an entire nation of hundreds of millions of people. And who has done a comparable job?
Nobody. That's the thing. That's why he's our Napoleon, because the job of Napoleon, the job of world bestriding emperor and conquer, that doesn't really exist. We've created a economic order that can't facilitate that kind of thing. But those people with those abilities exist, those drives, and what can they do? The closest thing you could do to commanding an army in the battlefield in the early 19th century is commanding thousands of people towards the specific vision that you have in your fucking head and making it happen, and having it cross so many different disciplines, like all these different people marshaling all these different technologies to get this outcome. That is where our real visionaries are. And of course it is, because it's we've been eaten entirely by the spectacle, and we've replaced like the value of production with the value of consumption, and just being flattened by what we're watching. And he's the best at it, and he should be in charge. And I gotta say, when the trailer came out, and I was seeing people on the timeline saying literally the exact same thing they said when the first trailer dropped for the first Avatar. Oh, this looks bad. This is like a piece. What does he have to do to slap some sense into you? This is like Doubting Thomas sees Jesus and sticks his finger in the wound, and then he's like, I don't know.
No, yes. I am.
What does he have to fucking do? You absolute oafs. You fail to believe. Your eyes are blind. You have blinded yourselves to reality here.
I feel about James Cameron the way people who promoted cryptocurrency felt about Bitcoin and NFTs. It's never going to crash. It's only going to the moon. And here's the thing: I can hear the skeptics, the haters, the cynics say, "Oh, no, Chapo. Oh, like you're always talking about how everything is now just like a technologically mediated simulation of spectacle designed to entertain and distract you, and that the metaverse is bad because it's just tech overlords just offshoring all reality into like a digitally, virtually managed illusion by which your own life can get worse. How could you possibly think that James Cameron in Avatar is going to redeem humanity? Isn't this just another metaverse?" And the answer is, you fucking dolt, you moron, you Philistine. Avatar, the world of Pandora looks like Pandora. It looks like that. The metaverse looks like worse than Fortnite. Compare the two. Compare the two and tell me that one, yes. Oh, yeah, it's a movie. It's not real. Oh, wanting to live on Pandora, it's just a distraction. No. Pandora, James Cameron, Avatar will redeem humanity in a way that fundamentally the metaverse and everything else that we shit on cannot, will not, and is actually actively fighting.
Nick, for someone who's not aware of it, if they come across something called the Franklin credit scandal, it sounds pretty dry and pretty boring, but it really doesn't doesn't do justice to how truly nightmarish and terrifying this scandal and what your book is about. So I guess in the broadest strokes, for someone who is not aware or hasn't heard of the Franklin credit scandal or Larry King or Craig Spence or any of the truly nightmarish details of this story, what are the broad outlines? Like if you had to describe to someone who never heard it before, what the Franklin credit scandal is.
Do you want a light rendition with maybe put on some light, happy music, or
no? Give us the raw shit.
The Franklin scandal. My book is entitled "The Franklin Scandal: A Story of Power Brokers, Child Abuse, and Betrayal," and it's about there was an innocuous-sounding Franklin Federal Credit Union in Omaha, Nebraska, not affiliated with Ben Franklin, not affiliated with Franklin Stoves, but nonetheless called the Franklin Credit Union. And it was a front for a nationwide pedophile network. Its manager was Lawrence E. King of Omaha, Nebraska. And he had a fellow pimp in Washington, D.C. called Craig Spence. They ran this nationwide pedophile network. And at Craig Spence's home, which was in a very opulent part of Washington, D.C., Craig Spence was a CIA asset. And his home had a bunch of little cameras all over it. And it was wired for audiovisual blackmail. And King would fly kids in to Washington, D.C. quite a bit. I've got a number of their flight receipts. And the parties would go down at Craig Spence's. And if politicians put themselves or any kind of power broker put themselves in a compromising position, they would in fact be blackmailed. And what happened with the credit union is Lawrence E. King used the credit union as his personal ATM, and he was inexplicably able to stave off audits for about 4 years because a federally funded or federally insured credit union should be audited every year, but he was able to stave off. And then all of a sudden the FBI came in and he was $40 million short. So the Nebraska Senate formed a subcommittee to look into the money because they saw that there hadn't been any oversight to the Franklin Credit Union in well over 4 years. But when the Franklin Committee formed, a number of social service personnel came to the senators and said, there's a pedophile network. King is running a pedophile network. And these social services personnel had gone to state and federal law enforcement, and they were just ignored, completely ignored. And in my book, I show how disingenuous state and federal law enforcement is. And this network was big. I mean, Epstein's network was around for 25, 26 years. Most likely, this network was around for about 12, but I think it was much, much bigger than Epstein's.
Like I followed it very tangentially, but the Oz stuff is some of the most pathetic, embarrassing shit I've ever seen. The hunting and the posing with Trump. His Twitter, what do you call it? The profile pic.
The banner, the profile pic.
Look at that thing. That is like direct from hell. That thing. It just says Oz, and under it says endorsed by Trump, and it's the two of them, and then it's all red, like scarlet red, just like this Trump and Oz in the sea of blood.
Okay, I'm looking at it now. It's like Dr. Oz. He sort of like has his hands, his fingers interlaced together around his waist, and he has sort of like a crooked, like his eyebrow sort of raised in a physical expression, and then he's just photoshopped next to Trump doing the fucking like just like his dolphin tooth grin, and then like this just like disgusting. It's just like his thumbs up, just
like you could so easily just Photoshop yellow flames, and it would just be and like a pitchfork in somebody's hand, and it would just be like the most on the nose image.
I guess the interesting thing about Dr. Oz is that he's the Trump endorsed candidate who may be saved by mail-in ballots that are still being cast in the city of Philadelphia.
Well,
So
I mean,
it's
I love when Trump like recognizes the irony and like the I just stepped in it. Like when he has those moments, like he does that little I just caught the car running. You know, like oops. He's definitely gonna have that moment.
So yeah, like it's still too close to call, but Dr. Oz could still do it. Yeah, I mean, Tim. I mean, once again, like Dr. Oz, Dr. San. I mean, what are you doing here, man?
I don't know. I can't believe that guy. He's just why? What is? It's just another supplement, I guess. The idea of being a senator is just being like providing, just another snake oil, just another con, right? I mean,
either that or he's a bit deep cover AKP agent, and as soon as he becomes senator, he's gonna get a fucking steam shovel and go over to Golan's house and pull him out of there like he's at a fucking amusement park claw game. And then strap him to a rocket and send him to Ankara.
Who's the other guy?
I don't know. It's just like, what are you going to do? You got $1 zillion. What are you going to do? You just going to sit around with your thoughts? Everything that used to be fun sucks now. You're sick of it. Got to have something else to pay attention to.
But these people can also these people can also see what the life of a senator is, and that looks grim too.
You'd think so, but I think a lot of these people just at this point, they want to be taken seriously because they take themselves seriously,
right?
And it annoys them when others don't. And they still think, even if being a senator is the worst job on earth, I mean, one, you don't do it very long, so that's the good part. Mostly you're just doing what you were doing anyway, but as a senator, and the stuff that is there involves you, speaking in front of a committee,
right,
with everyone having to listen to you, and cameras on you, and your vote being taken into consideration. You're consequential. You're not just some TV quack, which is what most people think Dr. Oz is by now.
George W. Bush's rather significant Freudian slip, speaking of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, he was making remarks and said the brutal and unjustified invasion of Iraq. I mean Ukraine.
To launch a wholly unjustified and brutal invasion of of Ukraine. Iraq, too. Anyway. 75.
And then after it, he says, he says it was a senior moment. It was just, I blamed it on my age.
Yeah,
it's like,
we can drop that clip in there.
Your age,
it's amazing.
not your fucking conscience. Like,
yeah.
Well, that's the thing, is that he did this all the time when he was president.
Yeah.
He would do this kind of thing.
Freudian
He would
slips.
wink at the audience. He would drop kayfabe for a second there while goofing around. And I mean, remember the White House Correspondents' Dinner where he had
they were looking for the WMDs?
Where's the WMDs? I mean, they love.
And he was like
they
crawling
love,
under his desk. Yeah.
I honestly think that the watch this drive moment is in the same league of just like
We must stop the terror. I call upon all nations to do everything they can to stop these terrorist killers. Thank you. Now watch this drive.
he's telling you how little he gives a shit about this.
Right.
He's telling you how little he really believes in this like fantasy, civilizational conflict that he sold you. That he was able to go, we must not stop until we hunt down these terrorist killers. Now watch this drive.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Classic.
Fucking with you. And he does it again. The way he looks at the audience, he fucking winking. He's like, I'm fucking with you guys.
Yeah,
his dad did a similar thing one time at a funeral.
Oh, about the Kennedy assassination? Is that the one?
Yes, where he's like, he's talking about Kennedy getting killed by a lone gunman, and he just does a little giggle after he says lone gunman.
The creepiest thing about that clip, though, is the roar of laughter in the room.
Oh, yeah, they're all having a great time.
Yeah.
Oh, you believe those idiots bought that? Oh, good times.
Jesus, man.
God damn
I mean,
it.
I'm 46, and that Iraq war, that period, that 2003 was some serious shit. That was bad news. Like,
it was bad
juju. Horrific, and it's definitely getting like kind of softened and forgotten.
Oh yeah,
and,
especially because Russia's doing the exact same thing now, and we can point to them.
And right before he's talking about invading brutally Iraq, LOL, Ukraine, he was talking about how Putin steals elections, and that makes it like him have an illegitimate government. They're dabbing on us, is what they're doing, and they're having a good time. It's another deal where if you're the retired president and you're you can still have power if you want to behind the scenes, but your public facing days are done. What do? You're just going to taunt people like a fucking serial killer.
Yeah.
Like you're Albert Fish sending letters to the family members of your victims.
Yeah. It's a little
I'm going to paint soldiers that died in the war I started.
Yeah, that is
got mangled. Ted Bundy or John Wayne Gacy. He's a sicko. He's the real Joker of politics, George W. Bush. At the end of the day, everybody wants this to end one way or the other. And
this is great American breakup shit.
Yeah. Exactly.
Wow.
Everybody, the death drive is in control of anybody with real power.
Well, I mean, I don't care anymore. Like, I'm going to be living in the Newsom Imperium. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, that's true. If you're in California
Newsom
specifically,
Imperium.
They're sitting on $90 billion surplus. If they can make sure that their military has the capacity to secure water, they'll be all right. Yeah. But if not, then they're really in trouble.
Yeah, we're in trouble.
I can't wait to I'm gonna be like those awful Israeli settlers who like perch up on a hill watching bombing campaigns, except it's gonna be people like refugees from the Austin, Texas gigafactory fleeing after the Tesla collapse in 2040.
Well, I do have a little bit of good news to share because I'm in the industry. I'm in Hollywood and I get to meet a lot of, powerful people. I was talking to some people at Meta, and there is some exciting new stuff happening with VR water.
Ooh, all right.
We're calling it Agualess. And it's basically water. It's basically water, and and it will function that way. I mean, not certainly from a hydration standpoint.
No, yeah,
yeah. But from the simulated feeling and experience of, that quench, that feeling that you'll
feel hydrated even if you aren't.
Yeah, it's good old fashioned water. It's it's two hydrogen atoms bonded to one oxygen, but in a digital sense, it's in the code, not in the atoms themselves. But the atoms are the hydrogen and oxygen atoms are blockchain backed.
Right.
So let's that's solid.
Felix has not done VR. Have you?
No, I don't really see the point. I already have a monitor. I don't want to wear a thing on my head. And like, if I want to experience like comprehensive false realities, I'll just do what I do every night anyway, which is like take 2 entire packages of Benadryl and just go to sleep like I normally do.
And have dreams.
I already have that. Yeah.
Yeah. He's creating his own metaverse every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've already seen all the people I've been reincarnated as.
Anyone good?
Yeah, okay. So we got Napoleon. That's an obvious one.
Course.
Anyone who's met me can see that's true. We got some interesting ones in there. Fatty Arbuckle, did not expect that. And we actually got my ancestor who I've talked about on the show. the first Spanish Jew who was forced to convert to Catholicism, then forced back because he was annoying everyone.
The deconverso.
Yeah,
or the reconverso.
Deconverso in history.
Yep. She is doing serious method acting preparation for the upcoming spin-off film about the Enchantress, our favorite character from Suicide Squad.
Finally.
The character we loved more than any other character. Everyone after that movie was like, I got to get more of that Enchantress.
Everyone's
why has it been so long? There's been a whole other Suicide Squad movie, no Enchantress. Be patient, folks. This thing is going to be, I believe it's going to be it's going to be DC's biggest budget ever, $800 million. It's going to be 3 separate films released at the same time, each of them 3 hours long. Enchantress, folks. Get ready for it.
Well, yeah, that was the character that everyone fell in love with. They're like, I love the bitch who's dirty all the time.
Yes,
superpower
the Lady Pigpen.
Superpower is that she's the same quality of like a girl who goes to Rizdi's bedroom.
Yeah.
God, I'll never forget, like, from the canonical Suicide Squad episode, Matt, like when you saw that movie in theater and like the big climax at the end where Enchantress is doing like a luau dance with all her magic coming. He's doing a hula.
Clearly a CGI body.
And you just said out loud in the theater, awful. Awful. Yep. But then, of course, and then I'll also remember from the Suicide. I think basically at about that same moment in the movie. I had given Felix an edible before we saw the movie. I think it was the last time Felix ever did marijuana of any kind. But he just turns to me and he's like, I can't take this.
Donald Trump won because of that.
Yeah, he got depressed that he doesn't live in the universe that has Enchantress in it.
Yeah, I tried to find my own Enchantress. After I saw it, I was just wandering the East Village looking for the dirtiest woman possible. I ended up like doing what Hunter Biden did and having like a crust bunk live with me for 4 years.
Every young man,
I still have like a dreadlock growing out of my back. It's connected with my spinal cord.
Every man who moves to Brooklyn is just looking for his Enchantress.
That's right.
That's the dream. Just the dirtiest, grubbiest lady in town,
but powerful.
I mean, you're in luck because look, if you're with a woman in Brooklyn, her genetic memories are gonna awaken, and her Cro-Magnon DNA will activate, and if you successfully mate with her, she will give you the most oxidized water in the world. Nice room temperature water that's been on her nightstand for 7 years.
That stuff gains power, though. The longer it's there.
Yeah. Women love that. Women love just having the most like air bubbled water ever.
They also love opening carbonated beverages and not finishing them.
Yeah.
Oh, ladies, come on.
Yeah, women like it. Women like it when the like fish with hind legs that started humanity crawls out of a LaCroix.
Also, average woman has a $10,000 line of credit at Sephora. Enchantress, never even heard of lotions or various balms and pastes, and I don't know what else they sell at Sephora. But ladies, it's expensive. It's a fucking for lotion. Come on, get out of here. We all need an Enchantress. Let's get enchanted. Let's get that dirty magic going.
You need a moisturizer for when you wash your face, but if you're never washing because you're just writhing around in dirt magic all the time, you don't really need that, do you?
Nope.
I am loving Mr. Cap's wild ride. He destroyed his life. People have done like all types of people who have done this, who have had like most of their net worth tied up in equity in a company they control, have like done this where it's like, oh, I'm gonna like sell it to go into this private enterprise or like borrow against it, but they haven't like destroyed their lives 2 weeks later.
Yeah. Well, it's because he had this bind where he couldn't just sell the stock because that undermines his brand, which is the entirety of the value of the fucking thing in the first place. So that's why he had to do this smoke and mirrors bullshit with Twitter to try to like do a 3-card money game and sneak money out of Tesla without anybody noticing. But now it's completely falling apart.
Yeah,
because he had to be the face of it the whole time. and he's not that fucking smart at the end of the day.
No, he's Robert De Niro hosting Aces High. You could have had the fucking Cash for Equity, but you had to be on fucking TV. You had to post your own Groiper. You had to be based. They can't fuck around with me if I'm based. Not like they would a soy guy.
We talked to the guys back home in the Emerald Mine. They think you going batshit.
Yeah.
God, like the Mustang is incredible though, because like seeing the defenses of what is alleged here, like the number of people who are just like okay, first of all, he has Asperger's. So like he probably misunderstood social cues with that stewardess or whatever, and it's just like an autistic person would never sexually harass someone. I mean that's literally never happened.
But also like the idea that like people like guys with Asperger's are just like constantly walking around in bathrobes being like, "Hey baby, want to suck it?"
Yeah.
not just like missing every cue from women who are also at a Naruto convention. Like it's a comprehensively great defense. The Musk dick riders are out in full force. Did you see the guy who was like, Elon Musk showed you his wiener and you're complaining?
Yes.
Oh my God.
He was like, I just don't understand women. This is the richest man in the world. And then like the weirdest thing is that the guy said he was like, I just don't understand women. If the richest man in the world exposes himself to you, like, wouldn't you want to tell all your friends how big his dick was?
Yeah. Even if it wasn't, they'd have to believe you.
What? Oh, and then Musk was just like, I challenge anyone to name 5 fucked up things about my dick. You can't because it's all a made up. And it's just like, dude, like how weird would your dick have to be for like someone to like pick out a distinguishing feature about it? That like, it's, I don't know, cut or uncut. Those are the options that you can guess on that. Here is the line of the article, though. This is a classic bit of Thomas Friedman. He goes, "Alas, though, I left our lunch with a full stomach but a heavy heart." That's the kind of fucking writing.
That's a heavy heart.
It's a full
don't go
stomach,
swimming, Tom.
but a heavy heart.
Full stomach, heavy heart, will lose.
Biden didn't say it in so many words, but he didn't have to. He didn't say it at all.
He didn't say it in any words. He spoke no words.
Just an aide dabbing his mouth with a napkin after he finished his milkshake.
Yeah, it's like Grandpa Sawyer from Chainsaw Massacre getting wheeled out to gnaw on the fucking tri-tip.
I just lived out the entirety of the movie Big Fish with Joe Biden, but here's what he said without saying it.
I could hear it between the lines. He's worried that while he has reunited the West, he may not be able to reunite America.
That means that America is going to be reunited in like 6 months. Division's over.
It's clearly his priority above any Build Back Better provision. And he knows that's why he was elected. A majority of Americans worried that the country was coming apart at the seams and that this old warhorse called Biden, with his bipartisan instincts, was the best person to knit us back together. It's the reason he decided to run in the first place, because he knows that without some basic unity of purpose and willingness to compromise, nothing else is possible. But with every passing day, every mass shooting, every racist dog whistle, every defund the police initiative. Okay, record scratch? Like, okay, we're throwing defund the police initiatives along with genocidal acts of terrorism.
Also, like, no one's done a defund the police thing since 2020. Like, anywhere where Democrats do control, just like every week they pass like a non-binding resolution that they'll like raise the police budget every year.
Yeah, like there aren't really even any voices within the like electoral structure of the Democratic Party that are even talking about that stuff anymore anywhere beyond the municipal level. And the places where they actually have power, Democrats, they've done it. Like that was a 2020 thing, and I think you could argue that it was a branding issue for the Democrats, but the only people who are still talking about defund the police initiatives are Democrats complaining about them to obviate their own responsibility for why they're hated.
Yeah, people really may have forgotten about it by now. If like every week Democrats weren't like, oh, by the way, we hate defund the police.
Yeah,
we're never doing that.
Was it like Amy Klobuchar the other day was like, I'm passing a resolution to honor the 567 police officers who died in the line of duty last year. But like, something like 450 of them just died of COVID.
Yeah. Yeah, the rest of them like had heart attacks at Wendy's.
Well, as long as you're talking about the police and their attempts to cover their own ass for their own incompetence, I mean, like, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up this latest example of what just happened in Texas right now, because I mean, like that is the news story of the day, is the revelation that the heavily armed SWAT team of a town of like a few thousand people essentially allowed someone for about an hour to murder like 20 kids and did absolutely nothing about it. And I'm just wondering, like, I don't know, like, what do you guys feel like? Is this going to undo all of like the sort of counter programming to like all the anger that people had about police, like in the wake of the George Floyd protests? And also, like, the thing I'm really like disgusted by is like the way that like a number of people have basically openly said, well, the cops would have intervened or put their lives on the line to save these kids, but like not enough people were willing to give them credit because like people have been so mean to them recently. So they're like, okay, we could have stopped these kids from being killed, but like, you know,
if only you've been nicer to the cops, they would have done their job like they're supposed to. No, I mean, I think that you just find out that there are people who, like, you can show them a video of what is happening. You know, that was the thing with the Rodney King trial, was there was literally fucking video footage of like this happening. And there are still people whose belief in the cops and whose belief in, like, you know, fascism basically is so strong that they don't care what really happened. They just want, you know, the narrative of like, well, the cops are the good guys, so they would have tried to do the good thing and somebody must have stopped them.
So, like, a lot of what I've seen is like, I don't know. I saw an argument from someone where I understood the point he was trying to make, where it's like, well, like that they responded like how normal people would if faced down with like an AR-15. Like, his point was that AR-15s are like so uniquely dangerous that like anyone would just turn tail, basically, like the cops did. But it's like, we saw what normal people would do, is the teachers that like ran into gunfire and died for their students. Like, at some point, like, people have to face up to the fact that like cops are more cowardly and more selfish than like any randomly selected American. Like, definitely teachers in Texas, but like really anyone.
It's why they have to have a gun to leave the fucking house. Because they're fucking incredible pussies, and
because they need a stunt penis.
Yeah, if they're
penis on the outside so everybody can see that they're carrying it around.
If they can't be assured by the law that any altercation they might get in their daily life will not be, they can't end that by just killing somebody and getting away with it, then they don't want to even have to deal with people. They don't have the spoons.
Well, I mean, the cops were doing something. They were pepper spraying and tasing the parents who were trying to save their kids. I mean, it's just indescribable. Like, it's just like, you have all that the body armor and lethal force to arrest like a teenager for smoking weed, but then like to prevent a mass murder or something like that, it's just like, oh well, I feared for my life, so I wasn't going to do anything.
No, we just live in a fucking RoboCop world, and it is a nightmare.
I could just imagine, like, they were all outside looking at the building, and they all know that they pussied out. They all know that everything they think about themselves and everything that they get told by culture every day is true about themselves is a lie. And there they are, just standing with their dick in their hand, getting all colicky. But then, they see the parents getting upset and like running. Oh, great. Now I know what to do. Just fucking bust out some pepper spray and take out all of that anxiety on them. I don't have to think about it if I can do the one thing I know how to do, which is just push people around.
Right. And
it's zero threat to myself.
It's such a fucked up situation. And for the cops to come in and make it even more fucked up somehow, it's just like, it's unfathomably bad.
These people, like, they won't lose their jobs. Like, they won't even be like transferred or anything. And again, like, literally, if this equivalent situation happened with literally any other type of person, like if an auto mechanic was in a situation where like his not changing tires like got 19 children killed, like anyone would kill themselves out of shame by like now.
You'd think,
but these guys won't. None of them will.
Yeah, and just a bit of advice: if you are a rich white guy interested in murdering your wife, buy a boat. I am fully convinced that like rich people own boats so that they can murder their spouses.
That is 100% true. I mean, also, there's like, I feel like people think there's no law on the ocean, which is That's like what the Scientologists kind of say.
It's a maritime law. It's a special
right, maritime
kind of
law. But that's why that's like why L. Ron Hubbard was obsessed with like going to the sea, because he was like, fuck these Earth rules. We're going to go to the ocean where the law can't find us. And I really think that's what Elon Musk thinks too. I think he thinks there's no laws in space.
Well, I mean, there are no laws in space technically, but what there is a ton of solar radiation. So, I mean, it's like pick your poison here.
I think Elon Musk thinks that like as soon as you get to space, you can like fuck a kid and it's okay because there's no rules in space.
That would, I mean, that would seem to point to their.
That's the libertarian dream, is to fuck children in space, and no one can tell you not to because you're in space now.
But also have a space force to protect your space property.
Yeah, I love reading about what actually happens when you go to space, because it is like your brain.
Melts. You just die. You just die. There's no way. It's like everything.
Nobody's going to Mars.
Hostile. Yeah.
I love the idea of all the rich guys going to Mars and just their brains melting. It's just Total Recall. Everything is just the worst Paul Verhoeven version of reality we could be living in.
We could be living in the Benedetta reality right now.
Oh,
and,
God,
that reality
dream.
is that.
Did you guys all watch Benedetta?
Oh, baby, yeah.
Oh, yes. The
Felix,
message of that
quiet.
movie.
No.
Felix is being quiet. Felix, take a night for yourself. Run a bath. Treat yourself. Benedetta.
Felix has a very strict quota. He can only watch 3 new movies a year.
What if I told you it's about lesbian nuns having crucifix sex and it's the best movie ever made?
That sounds gross. What if you get a splinter in there? That's disgusting. I don't want to see that at all.
Well, I mean,
it means nothing to me. I mean, like, I guess for a lot of people, their parents made them be Catholic. That movie would. I don't know. A nun's just like a nun might as well be like one of the professions that Tom of Finland drew. That's how little it means to me. I don't really care.
Like what made her so good at being?
What made her so good at all this stuff is that she was just an incredible talker, and so she was incredible at talking people into doing things for her, talking people into like giving her money. She was just really charismatic, and I think also what I loved about her is that she's not like the hottest chick in the world. She's just the most charismatic person in the world, and also. These Hollywood guys are also all like fucking hustlers. And so they love her. A lot of them are older. She loves older men. A lot of them are Jews. She's like a young, hot Jewish woman. They love her because they're all fucking bullshitters. And so she's one of them, She loves guys like Robert Evans because it's like she's also just a hustler. And they love her because they're like, she will give me,
So she was someone who could
young girls.
She was someone who could actually bullshit a bullshitter.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's one thing I've learned in my life is that nothing they like more than to be topped, which is why I'm on this podcast today, asking you guys if you're circumcised.
Oh, hey, Merry Christmas, Paul Giamatti. Listen, I just wanted to thank you for your kind words and saying I'm the total package. I really appreciate it. You're the total package, too. You're something special.
Hey, did you finish all the coffee?
No, there's...
There was a little bit left. I was saving that.
Okay, I'm sorry.
You took that?
No, I just...
You know what? You think you're the fucking package? You're not the fucking package. Save the coffee for other people.
Christmas thinks I'm the package.
Yeah.
Fuck you.